Good afternoon and welcome to the BioMe webinar, Online Campus and Online CLIL Settings for 21st Century Students. Our speaker today is Joe Trevino. Joe is a versatile teacher with 25 years of experience in teaching and educational coaching. Currently, she is the head of the Languages Department at Highland School, where she implemented the bilingual programs for science, history, and technology. This session will be divided into two parts. The first 45 to 50 minutes, we will focus on the main part of the session that Joe has prepared for us. After that, we will dedicate 10 to 15 minutes to answering questions. So thanks again for coming. And without any further ado, here is Joe.
Hi. So can I hope you can hear me. I'm here to help you or show you what we do in our school. And I am the languages coordinator, and I have the privilege to help a lot of teachers and get a lot of information and good practices from my teachers. So I'm happy to share those best practices that are not all me. So this is like a combination of all my years of experience and the teachers that I've been working with. So for me, significant learning is the process that happens in the kid when he can remind the long term a lot of things. So the significant learning experience only happens when there's a connection, the teacher and the student, at a very different level from what all teaching used to be. So I would like you to relax, enjoy the session, and share with me these thoughts. I'm going to give you some questions, ask you some questions, so I can frame my webinar. Can we teach the same way as our teachers did? What made us become a teacher? What was the vocation we had? Who do I pay attention when I am delivering a lesson? Do I look at the most academic kids? Do I look at the least academic kids? Is teaching very or ultimately related to the students' learning? So I prepare a lesson, I spend hours, and then does that turn into the students learning more? How long do I spend preparing my lessons? Is it worth it? And the last question, say, does the time, do I, all the time that I devote to corrections and all marking and all that, does it turn into real learning? So these are the questions that we're going to be working on. So our students live in a global world, and they will have to face or find or work in unknown jobs. One of the examples that we've got is like, there's a sergeant. His name is Raphael Grossman, and he was the first sergeant that used Google glasses in the live surgical procedures. Was he told, did he study, about this possibility of Google glasses? Did he ever know all the possibilities? No, he was just a smart guy who put together two things. And that tells us a little bit how our students have to learn. Do we have to teach content? Do we have to make them learn or practice skills? Do they have to get special abilities? Do they have to get certain attitudes? The important thing is that, we have to prepare them for a very uncertain world. They don't know what's going on. It's like us. I want to just, I think back the moment that we say you are under lockdown, you have to teach online. What was that? We had to learn, how to put files on OneDrive. We had to find apps that would help us interact with the students. So we had to learn so many things. And, there was a very beautiful moment in my life because I felt that I was very useful to my teachers. But some of them cried. I got phone calls like 10 o'clock at night, just crying because they didn't know how to do this, the file, they couldn't upload it. But others were just very enthusiastic. So this is one of the examples that is going to help our students in the future. We have to make them, be able to leave their comfort zone, being able to, face challenges with some kind of enthusiasm. So this is a little bit of what I would like to know. Now, how is how are our students, the profile of the 21st century student, that I would like to call them learners. They know, they are very social. In a way, they want to share experiences. If you think of the teacher, before, I have my student and I deliver a lesson and I ask. So it's like one to one, or the teacher to the whole group, but it's like this, confronting each other. If you see the picture of the little girls like showing, this is how they learn. It is a little bit sad that most of the teaching, most of the learning does not happen in the school. There were some statistics about like 80% of what the students learn does not happen in school. What I'm talking about, learning significantly, something they read, something they see, something they've been told by their families, or, you know, and very little happens in the school. So the way they learn is like sharing experiences. So they share the screen. Also, they are not very, the threshold of tolerance to frustration is kind of very low. They cannot tolerate frustration. I don't really know whether this our society, the way they're brought up, their parents giving them everything, sorting out all the problems, but we have the students that have a lot of problems tolerating frustration. They get easily bored, very bored, with anything that comes in their lives. So it is the society of the tiredness and boredom. But having said that, we would have to say, I don't know, my audience, I would like to interact with you, but if you could tell me, if you are the X generation, the boomer generation, the millennial, or the Z generation, I would just like to know the type of people I'm speaking to. Well, I am having this with, but definitely the Z generation is the generation we are teaching. And now they talk about the alpha generation, which is like even, more digital, everything's got to be fast and quick. And then I have to see the results in a minute. So patience, effort, it seems to be a little bit out of the, our ideas. Another characteristics is they don't like the method. So most of the things they enjoy is comes from intuition, creativity, and they try themselves, like is challenge themselves. So for example, if I tell you that I have to deliver a lesson, that say, tell me the process is photosynthesis, and then you have to go through the vocabulary, you have to go through the processes, they can give them a worksheet, and then the students have to fill it in. Then what we see is like they don't like doing that. They just like don't really learn through that. But if I tell you and ask them a question that challenges them, like, for example, what do you think, is more dependent, a plant or a person or you? So if you had to live in a desert island, who would survive better? Why? Those questions that stimulate their imagination and creativity are the ones that would be the tools for your teaching. Now we know that how long, this is a question that I sent out, so if you want to answer in the chat you can do it. How long do you think your kids can be focused? Focus means working and really you know putting their best of the efforts, right? Actually, what they say is 1 minute per age, right? So if you get like 1 year old, 1 minute, 2 years old, 2 minutes, and then it goes up to 10-year-old, 10 minutes. Here in the chart, or the slide that I projected, it says like up to half an hour. According to my experience, I've never got that, never, ever. And actually, when I teach secondary, it goes backwards. 15 years old is 1 minute, as they were when 2 years old. The fact is that, I don't really know why they cannot be focused for a long time. Also, another question that I would like to ask, how many kids in your class are disruptive? When I say disruptive, is that they cannot sit still, they cannot they cannot be focused, they interrupt, or they raise their hand to answer your questions, and then they, say it without waiting for their turn. In my school, we made the statistics, and we found out that in a class of 25, we can have like up to 7 kids, 8 kids that are this type. So there was a moment that we thought, um, is this, that all the kids in the world, or 20% of the kids in the world, 30% have a problem? Or is it that, we are delivering lessons in a way that we don't engage them, we don't understand them, we don't embrace their, the way they are? So the fact is that more and more kids are visual learners and tactile learners. And if you think of the way we teach, we deliver lessons that just most of the times is me talking, explaining to them the lessons. I give them a worksheet. I expect them to fill it in. Then I interact with them. But because I just cannot interact with all of them at the same time, I just have to respect their turns. So the proposal and the practices that I'm going to share with you are all, you know, towards a model of teaching, learning, where all the students can interact with you at the same time. And I understand their nature that they need to move, the students' nature that they need to move, especially in primary. And also that I just share more visual and tactile elements than listening or auditory elements, right? So another thing, wait a minute, because I have to find, okay, here we go. Oh, no, sorry. Okay, I cannot see very well okay. Another, characteristic of our students is that they need instant successful experiences. They cannot wait. Why is this? Most of the video games, I press a button, something happens, and I get a reward. I get points, and if I don't do it, I die, and I can't start it all over again. So that makes teaching a little bit complicated, because to have some kind of successful experience, you need a process, and you need to build up, and you need to wait. Well, what I'm going to, share with you is, some kind of practices that allow that kind of instant successful experience a little bit. So at the end of the day, you make sure that your students have been able to have a successful experience. So now here's my last slide concerning profile of students. Our students are interested in wonderful things, special effects, movies, YouTube videos, everything is just wonderful. And here we go. Me, my voice, my resources as a teacher, and I have to compete against that. What can we do with our students that's not done in video games or movies or this wonderful special effects? We can challenge their imagination, their creativity, and their logical thinking, higher order thinking skills. Now, if I ask you, for example, this typical logical thinking challenge. I have to cross a river with a boat, and I got a lettuce, I've got a wolf, and I've got a sheep. How would I organize the trips so as not to, lose the lettuce, the whatever? Right. If I tell you that, most people will be, oh, I want to do that. I want to answer that. I want to see if I can do it. This is what I am proposing: practices and certain activities that stimulate the kids' creativity, imagination, and higher order thinking skills. So now I am going to start, the part of the presentation that talks about, traditional. I'm sure that you have a combination of both. So do not feel, judged in the way that I am not saying this is bad, this is good. It's got to be a combination of everything. What does a teacher-centered learning model does? What does it do? Actually, my experience, my knowledge, my idea of what I think the students would enjoy, um, that's what rules my teaching. So I go home and I think, oh, I'm sure they're going to love this video and then this worksheet. So I am guessing what I can do with my students, what they would like, what they would is it okay? Yes, definitely. There's got to be a little. The number is like 30% of our teaching can be teacher centered. I can deliver a lesson. I can just like have a lecture. I can explain a thing. So don't think that this is not good. It is good. The problem that it's got is that it is me thinking what they may like. Whereas in a student-centered learning environment, it is, everything is interconnected. The teacher thinks what the students may like and have a teaching proposal. But the students, return and tell you and explain to you what they would like to do, what they would like to experience, how they would like to work. Why most teachers in the teacher-centered learning? Because it's easy to control the whole group. Whereas in this student learning environment, you have to get a lot of dialogue with the students. And then sometimes it's complicated to see, how can I know what this student wants? How can I know how this student? But, my experience is that if we thought of the time, and I would like, this is another open question. If you think of the students, um, the time that you spend telling off students, or sit down, don't move, do this, come on, finish this, or preparing photocopies because they need certain reinforcement, or they need certain enrichment because they get bored, or they don't get there, all that time could have been anticipated in dialogue with the students in small groups. uh, and for example, if I just can say a group of students can be, I can be speaking with some little group of students where the others are doing something different. So what I'm trying to propose is like distorting the typical flow of a normal lesson that's got a linear sequence. I explain, tell them to work. After that, I correct. After that, I do that. So what I'm saying is like organize like work groups where most of the, there's a strong dialogue. Now, another question I want to ask is like, who do you look at and who do you pay most attention when you are delivering a lesson? For example, right now it's very complicated for me to know whether you are enjoying the session, where you can, um, interact, that you're getting anything, because I cannot see you. If I were in a presential setting, I would be able to see your faces, and I would straight away would definitely look at the people who mirror me. Who are the people who mirror me? The people who mirror me is the people that nod, shake heads, that smile at my little jokes, and that is the moment that I know that I'm doing it well. But would I be looking at the back of the room? Maybe not. Would I be, having information from the people that are not mirroring me or smiling or nodding? I have no clue. I have no clue. So it is natural, and it is, most teachers do that, that you absorb like the positive energy and you absorb the positive follow up of the students who are in the lessons. So when you started teaching, who did you do it for? The smart, more academic kids, or the less academic kids? So, um, if we go to teachers' most common mistakes, and I hate talking about mistakes that teachers make, but I wouldn't call it like mistakes, but I would definitely call it moments when you are likely to get students disrupting. Anytime that you open the lesson with a question, like a very important key question, have you thought of the people who follow you or who participates? Am I just more of the time, me? The very academic students are the ones participating. Sometimes, and most of you, I'm sure that you go to the non-academic kids to ask them, did you understand this? And at that moment, non-academic kid would be like, thinking of their own things or whatever, and suddenly he's, asked by a teacher, say, what was she saying, or what was he saying? And then he looks at you, and then you say, I repeat the question, where are you, da, 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 da. And then the student would say, okay, again, again. So when you ask questions and then the academic kids answer, the rest are just waiting to be asked in the best of the situations. The others are just in their own world, knowing that they're not going to be able to answer. I'm talking about key questions, right? So standardized programs, same programs for everybody. Who follows the lesson? Eh, some kids may be bored because it's going over things that they already know. Some others are, a little bit trying to catch up, and I just don't know. I don't get there. That is the second thing. And the third thing is like teachers focus on the more academic students. How do you feel um, the student that's not that academic feels? I can tell you about my own experience. I've got three kids. One was a doctor. He was very academic, very good. He was successful in everything he did. My daughter was the same. My youngest son, I don't know what happened to him, but he's not been very academic. He's spent all his life, you know, thinking on I don't know what, but he has been a passive learner all his life. All his life. So his learning has been very little compared to what he would have been if he had been asked to participate a little bit more and made to participate. Okay, so now here is the thing. I am proposing you're interacting with the students, you're being able to have a dialogue, to make everybody participate, to see, and set different programs. And then how can we do that? We got only two eyes, two ears, and two hands. So this is it. How can you lead a lesson? How can you deliver a lesson if you don't know what they want? For example, this webinar, it is very complicated for me because I don't know what you need. I don't know what you want. So you signed in and then you say, well, I have to take it for granted that they are going to be interested in my talk. But let's see. Now, questions, that you need to know. What do your students know and what they want to know? What tools do they have to learn? They some of them are very academics. Other students are, don't have, good memory. Others don't have very good logical thinking. So those are the tools that they have. What do you do to help them build or get or achieve those tools? What misconceptions they're having or they're building as you're teaching? I remember I taught, in it was fifth grade, electricity, and one of the videos was about static electricity because it's a very good video to more or less build a lesson from what they can see. And it was just like, the hair just got very crazy because you rubbed a balloon and whatever. Then I had to make them see the difference between current, electricity current, and static electricity. So I asked them to draw what they had understood. They were mixing it totally. So they were mixing static electricity and current. So this is very important that you know how they're building their minds, right? So these are the questions that are going to change the way you can teach and set learning environments. Okay, that gives us to a step-by-step scaffolding. I'm sure that you're familiar with the concept of scaffolding, but it is essential for, let's say, 50% of the kids in class. Other 50%, they got the tools to, skip these gaps. The gap is like, I am going step by step, and suddenly, if the teacher's missing one of the steps that gives me the confidence, some kids would just like do one step forward, and others would just like get stuck there while the teachers keeps on asking this. For example, if I just got the typical lesson where it's like, muscles contract and relax. So if you get a muscle that contracts here, relaxes there, I can move my bones, right? Then I would have to build a lesson with the names so that they understand and can speak about that, the verbs so that they can use, words like contract, relax, move. After that, it would have to be identified when the muscle is relaxing, when the muscle is contracting. They can observe the model, and all these processes go to higher order thinking skills, where the student will be able to say what happens if I don't get, the neuron system, or I just got, I don't need, for example, fat enough, because fats are necessary in kids, and my nervous system is damaged. How can that affect? That is the higher order thinking skill. If students been building the lesson very well, he can answer those questions. He will be able to do the right job. And this is for scaffolding. Anytime you think of a lesson, it is advisable that you think. You are the teacher and you model their thinking. Then you have to give them guidance. Then you have to gradually release your guidance and give more autonomy to the kids until you make an independent student. But when I say independent, it's not only that he knows the subject or he can tell the subject, it's that he's got resources to succeed with a question that has not been set or specifically worked out in class. So I could be just modeling, helping them, but there should be a question that's never been in class, that through their connection, through their relations, they can actually succeed. Now, how can you get this? And now here comes the part of the presentation where I just go through more practical um, issues. How can you get the students involved in the lesson? If they all work, if they all think, if they all move, and if they can feel proud of the work, you got everything done. For example, this is a normal lesson that you would just find in the book. And it talks about living things and all living things, right? So if I want to start the lesson with one thing that I call the architecture of a mini lesson. What is the architecture of a mini lesson? It's the beginning of a lesson where everything goes boom, 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 very fast. What happens, for example, if the students cannot be attentive for a long time, so I have to break up the lesson in mini small blocks. For example, connect. I have to show them visual aids. This worksheet can be a visual aid. The book was a visual aid. And then before I start the lesson, the books are very good for me as a teacher to know what they have to learn, for the students to revise, to have chronological order, concept-based order, and they're essential. But nothing can tell you, nobody can tell you how you should just tackle the lesson, because you know your students, you know their abilities, you know their problems, you know their challenges, all their enthusiasm and creativity. So this goes like in a 4-step, like you connect, visual learning, and then, for example, in this case, it's like they compare and contrast. You have not taught the lesson. You're not going to teach the lesson. You are only going to know their prior knowledge and start warming up. So this is one thing that's called a visible thinking routine. A visible thinking routine is something that you collect what kids have in their minds, but you make it visible. It is essential that is written and it is on paper. You can do it orally, but it's got to finish to consolidate the part of the brain that works at a higher thinking skill, order thinking skill. Because if it's not written, it's like the part of the brain is not fully consolidated for this learning. So the teach is like that you tell them, the necessary words. You can have game to learn the words or explain the words, ask them to copy it or whatever. And then active engagement, that is when they do the work. In this case, they are asked to paste or write the words. You can differentiate 3 different levels. So you get very academic kids who can write sentences. For example, a horse, a living horse, or a horse is, this horse is a living thing because it breathes, it drinks, or it eats, or whatever they can write. The not, the intermediate level, average level, will be able to write keywords, and the weak students will be able to cut out something that you may have given them before, so that they paste on both sides of the thing. So then it would turn in something, the active engagement, that you can see. And every student has done that, or they can have done it in groups, or you may have been able to do it um, on the board. They go paste things. Right now, with the coronavirus protocol, maybe they cannot stand up and paste things, but they can paste it in their own worksheet. So this is the way children would be doing. They say moves alone, eats, drinks, breathes, and the other one not move alone, because they may not be able how to, write full sentences. But we're not going to get the language uh, be a barrier, right? So we go for their understanding. Now, after that, you go through the part of the lesson which is metacognition. If you see before, you've spoken about living, non-living things, horses, a toy horse, and now here we just like transfer whatever they should know and see if they really know to a different context. So, for example, is a plant a living thing, and why? So, and then you see, I did this because in my school we didn't get up to that lesson, so I cannot show you the real pictures of the children's work. But here, if you read, they say, is a cactus or is a plant a living thing? And then some of them maybe say yes, others say yes. I just put here the name of the student. Some of them may not be, for first grade, for example, some of them may not know how to write yes, no, but they may know how to put their names or the initial of their names, and they put a cross for no, put a tick for yes. Sometimes you can ask them to draw the answers. So that horrible, nose that I drew is, they say it can breed. That would be a mistake because plants cannot breed, but it's good material to talk about it and give them the feedback. So if they stand up, paste their own post-it, what are you getting? You're getting everybody participating and feeling that their answers are being embraced and taken by the teacher. So you pick the post-it and you read it back to them. I say, oh, not move. That's very good. Breathe. What did you mean by, this picture that says that you're breathing, that it doesn't breathe? The next time you have to put a cross. So I understand that a plant cannot breathe, but oh, the water, that's very smart. You get the water. So that means that the plant needs water. This is the idea. If you don't have post-its, because sometimes it's very expensive, you can just get a piece of paper and you can put blue tack on the board. So they just like paste their piece of paper on that. What am I getting here? Everybody answers. And I avoid the, what do you think? Water, very well to you, but not to the rest of the class. Oh, doesn't breathe, very well. And I'm collecting everybody's participation. But at the end of the day, I would dare you there you look at who's answering and who's not answering. So it seems that my webinar is for the non-academic kids. Now, what I'm going to do is like show you a little video um, about this experience. In this video, because it lasts only 1 minute and a half, or I think even less, I couldn't do the whole session and I couldn't get all the students participating with the post-its. The dynamics is like a reading, listening comprehension, where the students had to answer to some kind of questions. I made them orally. Also, there was an activity with vocabulary, and I described the word, and then they have to paste a post-it with their names. They don't know how to write yet. They are in first grade. They're 6 years old, and because of the lockdown, they have very poor reading and writing skills. So I asked them to to write their names, and I asked some of them to go to the board and paste their names on the answers of something that I was conducting. So wait a second, I'm going to get my first video, start video. Play video. Okay. Now, can you see me, right? Okay, so that was the lesson for first graders. And also, I just want you to see a 30-second video of how we do spelling, with hands. This part of the, talk is to encourage you to incorporate movement inside the classroom and allow everybody to feel that they are participating. So I'm going to show you just like this one. Okay, video, play video.
Okay, beavers. Another word. What is this? What's happening here? What's this word? Okay, so can you show me how to spell with using sign language? Let's see. Hands up. Show me. Now, who can give me a sentence with this word? All together.
Okay, so here we go. Let's go to my slides again. Um, I really enjoy just having everybody participating. If you ask them to write, it's good, and then but you have to correct a lot. But in one of the moments that we say, okay, you can see what everybody's doing. I don't know. Okay, here we go. I am going to start my present. Let's go back to where I was. Okay, so let me just get the chat so I can see some of the things. Okay, so there was the second video. Here we go. I'm sorry. Okay, now I'm just going to give you like a practical case on how to stimulate the children higher order thinking skills. For example, this is a typical normal lesson. I could, I'm going to pretend that I am teaching you what cavities is and good hygiene habits and everything. So I could tell you, say, if whatever I know, it's got to be put in simpler words and help the children understand whatever I'm saying. This is like the traditional, part of the lesson. Say, cavities are damaged areas in your teeth that developed into tiny opening or holes. Cavities, also called tooth decay or caries, are caused by bacteria in your mouth. Bacteria can grow because they eat the snacks you have, the sugary drinks that you sip. If you brush your teeth, bacteria cannot eat anything because you sweep your mouth off food. Then the following thing would be explaining it, asking them questions, and then here you go and give them the typical worksheet. So I am going to represent what a weak kid does. While you are explaining it, he is like this. I don't know where he is, but I'm speaking for my own experience. He is thinking, something, right? And then suddenly he's given this worksheet and he goes like, oh, that's a mouth and these are sweets. Oh, what am I supposed to do? And then he looks both sides and he sees that everybody is writing. Okay, somebody's writing, I cannot write, what am I supposed to be doing? Then he looks and say, oh, holes in the teeth, sugary things. Oh, my mom says that I should be cleaning my teeth or that after I eat sweets. So maybe he has the intuition of putting the things the right way. Okay, I'm going to give you another possibility. If you start the lesson before you talk and let them discover something, that is what is going to turn out into significant learning. Whatever students listen, it's 10% of the students have auditory memory, auditive memory. Whatever the students see, 80% is captured. The attention is captured. If I make them touch, I capture everybody. If I just talk, it's limited number of students that are going to learn through that. So this is another visible thinking routine that is called see, think, wonder. This is like a very basic routine that you can give your students. Say, tell me what you see, but what you see is what they see. Nothing that involves interpretation. For example, say I can see, something that looks like a mouth, and I see monsters or whatever looks like monsters in different colors. Some of are, drilling into what looks like teeth. Another one is with a sickling, and then it seems that they are damaging the teeth. right? What do you think is happening? Well, actually, they seem to be destroying the teeth. And what questions would you make? Why are they destroying the teeth? Where are these monsters from? Do I have monsters in my mouth? And then what are you getting with this? You know what they want to know. And, maybe sometimes they ask wonderful questions that you would not ever think of. And then, that would be the beginning of the following lesson. So, what we're trying to do is instead of telling them what they should learn, we're going to let them find out what they want to know. Okay. So, following one is, now let's get a little bit more structure. What is your job? Is it to tell them what they should learn, or is it helping them organize their minds so that they can learn? This is the mind of a kid. Definitely, it was the mind of my kid when he was little. Now, what is your job? This is your job. It's very simple. You have to help them organize their ideas in such a way that they take up less space. And because of the connections they make, the relations they make, the inferences that they make, they learn faster. They got their own way to learn. Now, with this is part of the visible thinking routines, right? Uh, they have proven to be so good, and students learn really fast with this, right? For example, if you tell them like parts of the plan, normal lesson, parts of the plan, this and that, they learn the names, you ask them to fill this in and say root, etc. But here comes the challenging part, right? The challenging part of the lesson. Say, if you see, you get the leaves, and then what the chlorophyll would be, and then the question is, what do you think would happen if this part was missing? And then you get the students writing down with a keyword or with a drawing what part, what would happen. Say, most of the kids say they die. Yes, but why do they die? Because they die. And then this is your job to help them, come up with creative solutions to problems. What is the function of that part? Well, make the food of the plant, because it's stimulated by the sun rays, and the sun energy would help the plant get its own food and turn the liquid of the water and the minerals into plant food, something like that. So this is one of the examples that I could give you. Another one, compare and contrast. If you think of the polar bear and the brown bear and you say compare, this is important that you establish the criteria to compare, because otherwise they would say, because you put, for example, two pictures, or they know, they have watched a documentary or educational video, they would say the bear has paws, another bear has paws, the bear roars, another bear roars. So you have to establish the criteria. So you would say the fur. You talk about fur, you talk about where they live, you talk about what they hunt, you talk about whatever. So that is a way to get the students, comparing and contrasting. What is this? This is, all the thinking routines are based on what they can observe. Therefore, you have to provide with the right material. So you make them observe, you make them, get the best out of the images or the educational videos or the talk that you have given or whatever, right? So here you go. This is another mind map for compare and contrast. This is a better one than the other, because it says, what do they have in common and what do they have that makes it different concerning certain criteria. So in the lines in the middle, you say fur, you say hunt or eat or whatever, right? And then they have to reach their own conclusions. What am I doing with this? You are allowing them to build their own lesson without you telling them. Whatever they discover, they will never forget. So some people, some teachers along my life, they say, but it takes a lot of time, because a session where you deliver the lesson, minute. I tell them, make them work. Whereas this may take a whole session, but the good thing about that is that they will never forget whatever they learned in this session. So Visible thinking. This is, for example, if you want to start a project with little kids like 6-year-olds or something, that you would have maybe to collect and write down for them whatever they say. Sometimes they speak in Spanish and you can translate literally into English. For example, say, I don't know, what do you think about desert animals? Ah, desert animals. Lagartija. Very good. Lizard. And then you write it down. So thinking is whatever comes to their mind. That is creativity. That is what we call hot cognition, whatever comes to my mind. Puzzle out, help them to put the pieces together and organize them and explore. What do you want to know? Maybe they say, oh, I want to know why an animal in the desert buries himself under the sand. Oh, that is a very interesting question because I saw it in a document. Let's see what it is. Let them explore. Okay, so this is another visible thinking routine that is very good for not academic kids or language problematic kids. What I always said is like, I am very sorry for kids who fail English because they cannot speak English. They don't have the vocabulary, and they also fail social studies. They also fail science, although they may have understood so well. So we have to differentiate in what the problem is, whether it's the language problem to express what they know, or whether it is, a concept problem. So this is color, image, and symbol. And I am going to give you an example that I want you to think. For example, I am going to read out a poem, right? So are you ready to listen? So I hope you're not distracted, because I will ask you to think a color for this poem, a symbol, and an image. If anybody wants to share it in the chat, happy to do it. If not, I'll share what I did when I listened to this program. It's a beautiful poem, though. Show me the most damaged parts of your soul, and I will show you how it still shines like gold. And I'll repeat it again. Show me the most damaged parts of your soul, and I will show you how it still shines like gold. This is Nikita Gill. It's it's a beautiful poem, in my opinion. So, anybody wants to share the color of the poem? What symbol comes to your mind, and what image comes to your mind? Nobody sharing ideas. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I felt. For me, the color of the poem was blue, because I thought it's just very sad. Somebody's feeling horrible. The symbol, what came to my mind is like the swimming, ban symbol on beaches that you're trying to, you cannot, they don't let you swim. And the image is somebody rescuing a person. Why? Because I think if you got damaged parts in your soul, it's because you don't have a good, idea of yourself, but somebody from outside is telling you how good you could be. I don't know if you think, but I think it's pretty. And what I'm saying is like, I may not be able to retell the poem. That would be very difficult for me or for a kid with no tools. But if you ask them to say a color, to write a symbol, and the image, it's easy for them. Okay, so it's better. Okay, one of the questions say you meant it's better to ask the ones who are with the hands up. The thing, this is one of the questions about like who participates. In this case, everybody participate. Everybody puts up whatever they might have done. So you have to give them space. Everybody's going to do that. I mean, one thing is that not important questions where it can be fluent in the class, who knows this, who knows that, and then they can raise their hands and all that, and then you can actually have a fluent class. And the other thing is the key questions and whatever I want them to learn and get, like stamp in their minds, right? Let's continue. This is a video. This is another part of the webinar, and I will be about to finish. This is how students can interact, with each other in a fake cooperative lesson. All right. So let me go to the video, and I'll show you a video and play video.
Team 1, can you raise your hand? Okay. Raise your hand. Number 1. Very good. Number 2. Very good. Number 3. And number 4. When they start reading, it's going to go like this. You read with your best accent. Then we all read together. Number 2s and 3s. Sorry. Number 2s.
Okay, let me go to my slides. Okay, so after you've seen this, this is like a little, glimpse of how they can work together if you assign roles. The good thing about that is that you minimize the noise in the classroom. If you say all number 1s are going to talk now, they can talk to their groups. Now all number 2s are going to write a headline to whatever number 1 has said, and number 3s can just their ideas, and number 4. So you're controlling and asking only 4 people to participate at that moment. So the level of noise, lessens quite a lot. Now, this is the part that I'm going to go through this very quickly. So hopefully we got, time for questions. After I've been under lockdown, I've been teaching. My teachers have been, working like crazy. These are the tools that have been most useful if you compare the benefits of the class preparation with what the students have learned and participated, the easier tools. So I'm just going to go through that. For example, I'm going to skip this one. Vocaro is an audio file that the students can send you straight away. So, for example, if you get an email, some teachers have had a lot of problems getting a lot of files from students. At least in my school, they got, one mom would say the work of one kid, another mom would say the work. So if you ask the parents to get a slide and you paste the audios or you paste a link to the documents, you will have one email from each mom with all the documents that you want to do. This is a way to record audio files. You can copy them and paste them, or you can save them straight away. The following one is like Pear Deck. Pear Deck is a very useful tool that works on Google Slides and allows you to have dialogue with the student, instant dialogue. So I could say, for example, drag, say yes or say no, and then you get instant answers and a report of every answer. So you can send an open question, or you can ask them to drag things or to label things. The other thing is Padlet. Padlet is very good for cooperative work. There, you can open a Padlet for each group of students so that they can upload their documents, so you don't have so many emails with so many pieces of homework. So here you can upload videos, you can upload a document. Students can edit and work on it. The other one that I like is like Nearpod. And then here at the bottom, you can see like Climb to Climb. You can prepare a fill in the gap activity in a minute. You can just like match pairs. That's very good for first graders. You can paste an image and you can paste the other one, and it, the application shuffles it, and then, they get, the activity, and you get instant reports on who's been participating, how many attempts, and who has been working. So I've been doing a lot of lessons. It's been great because I knew the moment who had been following, who had been active in the activity. They can draw. There's like survey. They got, this collaborative board is like the students can paste their contributions. Very good and very easy to handle. This is something that I really like, that the teacher opens a Word document and the students, this is for cooperative writing. The old rotating paper, here it goes like, and then every student's got a color. So you know exactly what each group is doing and how doing it. What kind of teacher would you like to be? This is a question and I leave it open. Somebody who tells the students what to learn, makes them practice and corrects and give them feedback, or you want to build a different mind, help them build a different mind, to discover, to participate, to feel embraced and everything. So I'm going to stop here because I want, to let you ask questions, and that's it. So, oh my God, I'm very sorry. I just missed this part of the chat. Is there any question that you would like to ask, or maybe Bernardo can help?
Hi, Joe. Can you
Yes,
hear me?
perfectly well.
Yes. Someone asked when you're nominating students, whether it's better to nominate the ones who have
Oh,
their hands up.
yeah, that was like if you take the thing is like I mean, sometimes it's okay. So don't think that this is like the Bible and it's got to be like that. But what I don't like about like going to instant answers is because subliminally, you're teaching the kids that thinking doesn't take time. So what I usually do is I'm going to ask a question. I could, ask anyone, but I'm going to give you 15 seconds to think. So instead of raising your hand, you stop, because even those students who raise their hands because they got the answer, ready, may need to think. So what I don't like is key questions to answer like this, because it's given a very bad message to the ones who are not that fast. And then in the long term, it turns out to be like, you tell me the answer, you tell me the answer. What is a weak kid or a not academic kid thinking? Oh, thinking is a matter of a second, and because I cannot do it, I am not smart enough. Whereas real thinking happens after you have been digesting the question and thinking about what your answer. And even the fast ones can answer by thinking the way they are going to answer. So key questions for me is like, I'm going to ask a very interesting question, but I want you to hold it. So don't raise your hand. Just keep it in mind. Give you 10 seconds, and maybe you can give them 10 seconds. The ones who already know the answers can think of the way they're going to put perfect sentences, because most of the kids who are very smart, would prompt the answer, but would not build the answer properly. This is it. That's my answer. I don't know if you like it.
I have here one more question, and also if you guys have any more questions, you can just write them in the chat. I've got one more, and in the beginning of the session, we were talking about engaging students, and Munza was asking here how she can engage her students, considering that she's got more than 9 students with bad behavior. So if you have any piece of advice for her.
I can tell you, I can tell you that if you change the way, the lessons are delivered, you will have fewer and fewer students, disrupting. First of all, you have to always engage them. You have to make them work. You have to make them feel that you want to know what everybody in life wants to be listened to, wants to prove that they are doing it right, wants to feel proud of their, performances or their works. So usually, to be more practical, a video, a very engaging video, a very interesting picture. And I think I'm going to finish with this. I had a very disruptive class, and actually last year in second bachillerato, no, it was first bachillerato, I had the worst behaved students, and I was the 4th person in that class. The first one gave up, the first teacher gave up, second teacher gave up, third teacher gave up. So here is me coming to students who have managed to get rid of 3 teachers. Actually, the previous teacher was crying, horrible. So my first lesson, you know what it was? It was like I had to teach like can, could, be able to in the past and all that. So my first lesson was like manga, cartoons with superpowers. One of the superpowers was like he had these sticky balls that would send and throw to the people. Another one was that's just very nasty. There was the, acid breast milk that would squeeze it and would kill people. But though you had the pictures of the manga, nothing very insensitive or very bad. But I had that, and then they came out and say, what are these pictures? We have to use and say what they could do, what they managed to do, and whatever. And I had less bad behavior. The moment that you capture their attention at the very beginning and you make them do something, so every class should be like a mini little project that they can do something. The good ones would start doing it. Then you stand up and go to the weak ones or less academic or most disruptive. Just come and help me. What do you want to do? This and that and that. But if you use visual aids, less talking and more doing, I am sure. And then another tip is like choral reading, choral answers, for example. One says this and that and that. And then what happens? You make everybody repeat. For example, who knows, how to call, I don't know, the part of a plant that absorbs water. Somebody goes like, root. Very well. Everybody repeats. 1, 2, 3. The root absorbs water. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then it's clicking in and out, independent, all the group, independent, all the group. And I promise that, it is a world different. Well, done. So, any other question?
No, that's it. So far, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your questions. From By Me, we would like to thank all of you for coming and participating in today's webinar. Don't forget to join us on our next sessions, which you can find on our website, www.bilingualbyme.com. Before we sign off, many thanks to Jo for her practical and very useful training. And have a very nice evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay.